Ready? 3, 2, 1.
What's up, guys? My name is Marc Steiner, and today I'm here with my friend Erik, and we are comparing the Sigma 35 f1.4 to the brand new 35 1.2.
Let's go.
Let's get right into it. Physically, the Sigma 35mm 1.4 was by no means a small lens, but is dwarfed by the behemoth that is the 1.2. The 1.2 is a big chunk of glass, weighing in at a whopping 2.4 pounds. The lens is really similar in design to Sony G Master lenses, featuring a declickable aperture ring as well as a custom button on the side. It also features an AF/MF switch on the side, which is the only switch found on the 1.4. The 1.2 also has a massive 82mm filter thread compared to the small 67mm filter thread of the 1.4. The 1.2 is a result of what building a lens from the ground up for mirrorless looks like. On to the IAF test. Both lenses performed really well, and it's hard to tell the difference between the two. The fact that they seem to have about the same IAF performance at such shallow depths of field speaks volumes. But the fact that the 1.2 was able to keep up with the 1.4 while pushing around more glass at a shallower depth of field is very impressive. Both lenses have issues with finding the eye or even the face at further distances, which is to be expected on wide-angle lenses. Both have the same minimum focusing distance of 11.81 inches. Here's a short little slow motion tracking test, don't mind the flickering on the left. For more in-depth and real-world video tests, check out Erik's YouTube channel. He'll be uploading a lot more videos about the 1.2, and he does this full time. So he'll be explaining how he uses it in real-world situations, and you'll have a lot more content to view in terms of actual video performance. I'll leave a link in the description down below. Based off these quick tests, I can say that the 1.2 is just a little bit faster at grabbing critical focus on my face. I also think it has a slightly more pleasing focus rack than the 1.4. Again, the fact that this lens is achieving critical focus at a shallower depth of field makes it all the more impressive. Although the 1.2 did seem to be consistently faster, both lenses performed fairly similarly. Keep in mind that there's no face tracking at 120 frames per second, and that these tests are really hard for the camera to keep up with. Running towards the camera is one of the most difficult things to track, so definitely be sure to check out Erik's channel for the more real-world tests. On to the photo side of things. The 1.2 seems to have a slight barrel distortion compared to the 1.4's slight pincushion distortion. There's currently no lens profile to correct this in Adobe, but I know that they will be doing that in the near future. Even with this barrel distortion, it seems as though the 1.2 is actually a little bit longer than the 1.4, leading me to believe it's closer to 36 or 37 millimeters. These were taken on a tripod, and you can see the door and the kitchen arch changing between these two shots. The 1.2 also seems to have a slight green tint compared to the more magenta tint of the 1.4. Up in the left corner, you can see the differences in the bokeh pattern. The 1.2 is going to have a more cat-eyed bokeh on the edges of the frame. It also is a bit more creamy and blurry and has a little bit of that dreamy bokeh swirl going on. The bokeh of the 1.4 seems to stay more consistent in the frame without getting as cat-eyed at the edges. Here's a sharpness test comparing the two lenses, but right before we get into that, here again we were on a tripod, so the slight difference in focal length, regardless of distortion, is evident once again. The 1.2 does seem to be just a little bit longer than 35mm. Both of these lenses are ridiculously sharp. If we punch in here, the 1.2 wide open is super sharp, punchy, and contrasty like all Sigma lenses. Stopping down to 1.4, there's no real difference, but stopping all the way down to f4, it gets a lot more sharp and more detailed. You can really see this in the texture of the book cover as well as the wall. The 1.4 stop down to f4 is not as sharp as the 1.2, which again you can see in the lack of detail in the book cover and texture in the wall. But wide open is just as sharp as the 1.2, if not a tad sharper. So, after all that testing, what are your thoughts on this right off the bat?
It's horrible. No, I think it's a good lens. I think it's a really good lens. I don't really know if it's...
The thing is, yeah, we haven't seen the footage back on editing yet, so we have yet to decide. But on the back of the camera, it did look like the 35 1.2 was just a little bit better with video autofocus, which is what I was presuming. And I was about to buy this lens at the same time as Erik was, and I kind of held off because I was like, that's a lot of money to spend on something that's an uncertain. And now I'm kind of glad that I haven't bought it yet, because the performance is so similar. And that's where that diminishing return really starts to come in. Do you want to pay double the price for that little extra bit?
By the way, if you think that the 1.2 is going to get you a blurrier background, it's not.
Really not that big of a difference. The difference between the 1.4 and 1.2 was so minute in terms of photography, and like the performance you're going to get is very similar, as you guys have seen. But
I think the 1.2 is a buzzword. I think, in my honest opinion, I think the 1.2 was a buzzword for them to go and push the the new Sony lenses and stuff like that.
I mean, if you want that extra little bit of light for your that low light performance for that quarter depth of field, exactly. You're gonna notice it a little bit. It's not. Is it worth another $750? No, not in my opinion. But if you're that kind of person who's bougie like Erik, and you want that just like that little extra bit, or you want those photographer status points.
I got it because it looks cool. That's the only reason.
It does look very cool.
It's a big lens.
But I think for most people who already have the 35 1.4, it's not that big of an upgrade. If you're in the market for a 35, you now have to debate whether or not you're getting the Sony 1.8, the Sigma 1.4, or the Sigma 1.2. And
I think the balance of the cost versus the quality, this is definitely the clear winner for photography. We definitely need to do more tests for video.
Yeah.
But right now, I think our video king will probably be the 35 1.8 from Sony for autofocus.
Yes, 100%. But I think this would come in second very minutely with this right on its ass. So,
I think if you're looking for the highest quality 35mm, this is going to give you the best quality photos.
100%.
And stuff like that. But the video autofocus still is,
Yeah, it's not as good as Sony's native lenses, but it's also a 1.2. So we can't give it any bad points for that.
Yeah.
Alright guys, let us know what you think in the comment section down below. Do you have any other questions, comments, concerns about these particular lenses? What do you guys want to see in the future? My name has been Marc Steiner, this has been Erik, and we'll see you next time.
Let's go.
Get your snaps on point, man.
No, it's always like right here, it's like, it gets sweaty and then it dampens the noise. I find it so funny that like, you're not used to doing YouTube, even though you do more video than me.
I don't do YouTube, so this is brand new for me. Hi, I'm Erik. And that's a horrible intro, but I mean...
You're an energetic guy.
I am an energetic guy.
Why are you camera shy?
I am camera shy, okay? Stop.